make sure you let us know who you would like to answer the question if you have anybody particular in mind. Is that Rick in the back? Yeah.
I've been a candidate for the United States Congress. I'm a candidate for the United States Senate here in Michigan. I have been teaching about Islam at every tea party and every open event I get to. No one else that I know about, not even Alan West, beautiful person that he is, not even Sue Myrick, wonderful person that she is, that I adore. Who else has the courage to openly speak about Islam, as has been taught about this continent at this particular place? And why, and this is to you, Pamela, why is it that no other candidates, that no other politicians have the courage to openly speak about this subject and the threat that Islam is to this country, as well as to Canada, as well as to Europe, as well as to the world? Why do they not have the courage to do what I do and what you do?
Well, first I'd like to say, vote for Rick. Just briefly, politicians are looking in the rearview mirror. They are absolutely not a reflection of what's ahead. The NM media has been completely co-opted. The NM media is self-enforcing the Sharia. They will not offend. They will not criticize Islam. They are vicious when they don't like a candidate. Vicious. I mean, did you see this week? You see Obama going after Romney donors? That's an incredible, I mean, I don't want to get into a political discussion here, but my point is that we need brave men like you, and we need to support brave men like Rick. And that's the only way you're going to get things done, because if he gets legs, if Rick gets legs, they're going to go after him fiercely and viciously to destroy him. I mean, when Sarah Palin merely tweeted, you know, about the Ground Zero mosque, you know, being a stab in the heart, they went, I mean, it was vicious. It was a tsunami of bad media. The only good thing is I think that the American people increasingly do not trust the media. I mean, they see that the media is just completely and utterly corrupt, and in the case of Obama, criminally negligent in not vetting that candidate. That was my first book, The Post-American Presidency.
I'm director of Act for Canada, which is Act for America, in Toronto chapter, new chapter. But I'm also director of No Islam in Schools. And we have a mosqueteria in Toronto. We've held demonstrations on the steps of the Toronto School Board. We've held protests in the streets. The first time the media came out, and we got good media exposure. The second time, very few media, except for Sun News. Michael Corns covered it. After that, nothing. Attendance dwindled. How do we wake Canadians up? And how we can educate them, because we're going to use your resources and your material, because you've laid the path open. But what do we do now? How do we wake Canadians up? Sun News is doing a good job, but not everybody watches Sun News. And so we need to wake Canadians up. We can educate them, but we got to wake them up first.
Well,
how are we going to wake them up?
The only way to wake Canadians up is for the Canadian team to win the Stanley Cup. But, you know, it's not. Look, you've got to remember that, and this doesn't only apply to Islam. This applies to many of the great issues, social issues such as marriage, defending the unborn. Most, and I use the word quite proudly, most normal people are raising their families, paying the bills, being good citizens. At the end of a working day, the last thing they want to do is get involved politically. It's the strange ones who go to the union meetings and the fringe meetings. I mean, it is. But you know what? They get things done. So let's not be too harsh on people who are just exhausted at the end of their working week. However, we have to be aware, and you know what's happening in the West. We're being killed with kindness, because even though we have this rising tide of Islam, which will not stop, it has no intention of stopping. Compromise is seen as victory. So every time we say, let's sit down and talk about this, and maybe we can work out a compromise, they think that they have won. People still have their very large TV and their iPad and their iPod and their new car and their 2 vacations. And it's what Solzhenitsyn was talking about so many years ago. Don't you understand, you fools? You're going to lose everything because you're so comfortable. So I don't really have the direct answer. I think you do it one by one by one by one. anything you can do. If you can broadcast, broadcast. If you can blog, you blog. If you can speak to someone in the office, speak to someone in the office. Personal witness. Not in an aggressive way. Reach out to people whenever you can. Please never be frightened. I mean, we've gone past that, surely. I mean, really, you can be, if you really think that if you just hide away, it will all be okay. We've learned throughout history that is never the solution to any response to evil. So that's what I would say. But don't think by some grand gesture, some grand campaign, we can change everything. It's going to be gradual. Just the way, shall we say, the other side have won things gradually, yes. We have to take them back gradually.
My question is for the gentleman from Virginia. I come from a city in Michigan that just built a mosque last year, but I didn't start investigating Islam until just this past February. And I'm going back and looking at the newspaper articles about it, and I'm seeing that the land was donated. They didn't mention the funding. They merged congregations with Nation of Islam. How do I investigate where the funding came from? See who holds funding.
The first thing I would do is find some friendly realtors on your side and talk with them. They have the expertise. They can explain what the records are and how to read them and everything else. We rely heavily on people like Denise Lee, who's sitting here from Virginia, who understands real estate. And then we have auctioneers who call us and tell us that, hey, we had some of those people at our auction today. And we also have school headmasters now who will call us and say they were in here trying to buy my school with cash. They'll come in with a big bag of cash and try and buy the school outright. That's what you do, and then you learn it as you go through it. My background is in investigative reporting, and I did a lot of this, so I understand some of it, but it's not that hard. If the politicians can learn it, you can. And you just do that. You just compile details and then go after them with it when you have it. Now, where you take it, it's hard. The media, as Pamela says, the media isn't interested. There's always something wrong with your story, you know. And I would take it. I would go on the blogs and do the things and make sure Pamela knows about it, and just go at them heavily. But don't give up, and just keep on them.
That Mosqueteria story really came up through the internet, really came up through the blogs. Yes, you had media there the first time because it went so viral, and then it got quiet. So what? I mean, every time the left does a rally or Islamic supremacists do a rally, they have 5 people there, they triumph it. It's a triumph every time, even if it's just the mother and the son. You have to do the same thing. You're not going to hit a home run every single time. So what? And you send us the pictures. This is the stuff that we traffic, and we traffic in the news that the media will not report. Yes.
A local conservative synagogue, one of the largest local conservative synagogues, invited Imam Mustafa El-Turk to speak on the 10th anniversary of 9/11. They were told, we protested, some of us were almost arrested. The ADL, who's not our friend,
I'm their #1 hate.
Yeah, the ADL, even on their own website, talks about how anti-virulent he is, how anti-Semitic he is, and they still let him in as a guest speaker on the Bima in a conservative synagogue. You just have to get the word out. It's going on around here all the time.
And distribute information like that widely. In Virginia, we had pictures of the headmaster at the school and his family. They go out every weekend and take pictures of the bridge supports, like the Chesapeake Bay Bridge and a lot of the big bridges. And the Maryland State Police got pictures of them on the Chesapeake Bay Bridge. And we took that and we distributed it in about a 5-mile radius around the different things they were trying to do, different projects.
We have an opportunity here in Michigan to take what has been imparted by this heroic panel to try to impress upon our governor and our state Senate and our state house that it's time in Michigan, because Michigan is one of the states in play, as Pamela has mentioned, that has been trying to pass 2 measures, 2 compatible measures to insulate. That's all we're seeking to do, is to insulate our Constitution, to protect it from the encroachment, undermining, and eventual evisceration by the imposition of foreign laws. So I urge you to contact, I have a sheet if you're interested,
to contact, it's being held up actually. They're trying to choke it back in committee, but it's being very courageously spearheaded by Representative Dave Ajema and by Senator Roger Kahn. They need our support. I've got the numbers. There's going to be an important conference. You mentioned the Center for Security Policy. The Vice President will be one of the panelists at this forum. I urge you all to become engaged and, again, to take the information that we've learned and to catalyze it into meaningful and effective action. And I wanted to ask you, can you tell us about the ICNA campaign that's taking place around the country to try to impede the efforts of states that are trying to fight the imposition of foreign law?
ICNA, a $3 million billboard campaign, got Sharia, Sharia, got questions, get answers. What we've done is exactly that Islam ad that was on Robert Muse's presentation. I didn't invent that ad, okay? The sun and the grass and the trees. I took their ad, Come to Islam, the exact same ad, and flipped the language. Leaving Islam? And so what I did was with the Sharia campaign, Sharia, got questions, get answers. We mirrored the ad, Sharia, got fatwa, get answers. Call 1-800-LIVE-FREE. And if you called the number, 1-888-LIVE-FREE. If you called the number, Robert Spencer answered. Okay, it's a propaganda campaign. Now, it got media. Getting media is a way of getting the message out. We consider ourselves, the work that I do is like guerrilla media. That's what I do. I don't have $3 million. I only bought one city, but Kansas City, right across the street. Sharia got questions. Sharia got fatwa. You understand? A little inside baseball. It torments them. But it also removes the sting from what they're doing. And this is what we have to do. You don't need a lot of money. And each one of you are your own one-man media organizations. You have email lists. You have friends. You do things. You play tennis, tiddlywinks. I don't know what normal people do. I just work all the time. But you meet people and you talk to people. Now, you can't always reach everybody. There are people that are married to their dogma. But last week we were at Temple University. Noni, Simon, Robert, Islamic Apartheid Week, and I will tell you it was a zoo. If you want to see what's going on, it will shock you to your core of what's going on college campuses. It's complete fascism. I mean, they came in, they took 75% of the seats. The people that really wanted to hear us speak could not get in. They were ridiculed and made fun of by these protesters, by these fascists, these jackboots. And yet, even at the end, a girl came up to me and said, I just want you to know, I was here with the opposition, but I stayed, and you flipped me, you turned me. Now, what this girl is going to do in her life, you don't understand your power. You don't understand your influence. There's never going to be CBS News where you reach millions of people, but you throw that pebble in, and you have no idea the ripples, how many people you reach.
You know, that whole program, it's really an information operation program, what they're trying to do. And one of with the American Freedom Law Center, and I'm in Ann Arbor, Michigan here as well. In fact, I used to be the senior counsel at Thomas More for 12 years, and I started up the American Freedom Law Center with my colleague David Urashami, who is truly the expert in this area. And Frank Gaffney from the Center for Security Policy is on our advisory board. And one of the things that he's done, as I'd mentioned briefly, he created this education program, a video education program, so you can be educated about truly what the Muslim Brotherhood's about, what Sharia is about. It's a video program. We've got it posted up on our website right now, the first in our featured media, AmericanFreedomLawCenter.org. So that's a great resource for you to be able to counter this information operation that is that's going on. Certainly the courts and some justices, as we've seen in the Supreme Court, have been looking to international law to make determinations. But our Constitution specifically has a supremacy clause. And in that supremacy clause, it makes the U.S. Constitution the supreme law of the land. And so these other foreign laws cannot trump our fundamental constitutional rights. Should not trump our fundamental constitutional rights. But if you remember, Justice Ginsburg recently gave an interview when she was lauding a foreign constitution over the U.S. Constitution, South Africa. So, I mean, technically, under our Constitution, it's the supreme law of the land, and these other laws cannot trump those rights. But depends on who the justices are, and elections have consequences in terms of who's going to be on the bench. So if you have concerns about foreign laws, you ought to ensure that you vote for presidents who want to put justices on the bench who want to stick to our U.S. Constitution, the text of the Constitution, and not look beyond these foreign laws. But it can't trump a statute itself, or anything else cannot trump our Constitution, the supreme law in the land.
Thank you all so much for coming. Don't waste what you have learned here. Don't waste what you have heard here. You all are the soldiers in this battle. As Pamela always says, whenever we're speaking, I hear her say this, I'm going to say it now. This is a war that is not going to be fought on battlefields. This is a war for our justice, our freedom, and for human rights. It is a war not with guns and bombs. It is a war in our communities, and we are the soldiers. It is up to us.
I want to thank you all for coming. It was really thrilling. You give us all hope. Michael will be outside signing his book for purchase. Yes, Michael? My books are outside. If you need any advice on something, feel free to come to us. And remember, if you're working on something, send it to the blogs. We get it out there and we get it done. Fight the great fight.